The reason 85% of golfers quit is because they're actually smarter than us. But on a more serious note, a study in 2013 revealed 19% of golfers gave up as they saw absolutely no improvement, 30% of them took up a completely different hobby, and the other 36% gave up because the game was too expensive. Well, you've definitely come to the right channel. Which means I only have 10 minutes to solve these issues and stop the endless amount of frustration for golfers out on the golf course. And sadly, I won't be able to help you with that one. Now, the clubs and brand I'm using today aren't expensive, but the head design is the important factor, because if you're anything like me when I started this game, you would have had a fair share of these and this. And of course the dreaded. The problem wasn't the good shot. I would say some of my good shots back then are as good as my good shots today. But I never accounted for the bad shot. For example, you see, back in 2014, I was obsessed with this man's swing. And I have a bottle of water to represent said swing. Adam Scott's swing from Wish. You see, on the driving range, all 9 holes in the evening by myself, that swing was pretty efficient. The good shots were good, and to be perfectly honest, there wasn't much volatility. However, that same swing under a bit of pressure, maybe it's a weekend comp, maybe I'm playing with new people that I want to impress, each bad shot, each thin, each fat, each 7, 8, 9, well, I think you know where this is about to go. Oh, well, that was heavily underwhelming. Just like my swing back in the day. Just like you guys, I got the golf bug hard. Meaning I spent an enormous amount of time, money, energy into this game, and the sad thing is that creates 2 harmful products: expectations and pressure. In the range, I would hit bad shots and just shrug them off, working on technique. And when I started to get in a flow and started hitting good shot after good shot, that was the expectation. That was my new swing. I am now going to hit those good shots no matter the circumstance or scenario. But when I was on the course, I did the opposite. Each bad shot really got to me, as I was expecting great shots 100% of the time, which in turn caused more pressure and brought out the worst in my swing and short game. The more I let this cycle continue, the more my scorecard looked like it was almost going for the perfect game. Bad shots are a factor of golf. You're gonna hit bad shots, the best in the world do. But I stopped focusing technically on my swing, trying to make the aesthetics and my good shot even better, and then started worrying about the bad shots. Can I get my worst shots in my golf game still create some kind of decent score? So let me show you the method of how not to be a part of that 85%, even with family responsibilities thrown on top. Let's start with the clubs we are using today. One of my favorite brands, Cleveland, and these are chunky, hybrids almost. And don't worry, for you more advanced players, these techniques are very transferable to your irons. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show all of you when you know it's time to grow out of these chunky irons, whether it's a cavity back, hybrid, or even a cavity muscle back. Because for those golfers, you are now getting punished for your good shots. I know, doesn't make sense this game, does it? Thank you to the boys at Replay Golf for lending me these budget affordable irons, roughly selling for around £300 on eBay. This is the important thing, this nice big sole at the back there, as well as this. We're talking about forgiveness, we're talking about percentages, and we're talking about getting rid of those 7, 8s and 9s. Now, a lot of you will turn your nose up at these. Be embarrassed to take these to your local golf club to play with your mates. But confidence is the name of the game today. And these are the very end of the spectrum when it comes to high launching and forgiveness. So you can definitely go smaller. But what's more embarrassing than this, then, well, I'm just giving you a sensible solution. Now, these clubs were designed to do 2 things. Be extremely forgiving on off-center hits. Wrong deodorant. Where's the dirt? Where's the... Oh, perfect. This would be good. There we go. I'll sprinkle some of that on there. Give us... Oh, yes. Now we have some face spray. As I was saying, forgiving of any part of the face and high launching. perfectly out the toe. It's almost like I've been used to doing that. Decent straight shot, and as you can see, I mean, I almost missed the thing. For anyone wondering, foot spray is the best alternative if you want to find out your strike pattern. So here was the first bane of my life, creating those 7s, 8s and 9s on the scorecard. And on the practice green, worked lovely by myself. Phenomenal. And my technique was pretty sound. It's a good versatile shot. High over bunkers, get it stopped nice and quickly, loads of control over that ball. The only issue is that the bad shot requires a decent amount of club head speed. If I do thin it or do fat it, it's going to be either very short or very long. Whereas what I did then with my pitching wedge, when I was under pressure, didn't want to go out the back of the green. And more importantly, if I've got nothing in the way of myself, I might as well just do that. The reason this is more overpowered than Tiger Woods in Sunday Red is because of the sole. A lot of you guys should use your 9-iron, 8-iron, 7-iron out of your set, as the sole will be bigger than, well, your traditional wedge. Meaning we don't have to worry about the heavy shot. And because we're using less loft, i.e. 8-iron or 7-iron, we've got less club head speed, meaning the thin isn't going as far out the back and the fat should definitely go somewhat further. You know when you watch pros on TV, they hit a chip shot and they're like this, for God's sake, and they're 8 foot from the flag. It's because they thinned it. It's because they actually hit the ball somewhat heavy. And because they're not really using that much club head speed and using their bounce effectively, well, their bad shots start looking something like this. So now you're epic at 40 yards and in, and find out that club. If it's a 7-iron, to bump and run it 40 yards, then it's a 7-iron. If it's a pitching wedge, use the pitching wedge. But how do you get to 40 yards consistently? Let me show you. We have to understand that club face is king when it comes to this game. If that face at impact is pointing left, it's going left. And if it's pointing right, it's going right. Not to mention on the driving range, Simon was perfectly aligned. We're in a nice little square. Club face is then parallel to that square. I pick a flag that I'd hit at every single week, and I'd hit some really good shots. Where is the target? Where am I aiming? And as I'm lining up my club and the ball, I pick a piece of grass on the ground directly in front of it. And if you keep doing this and the ball keeps finishing over here, well, set up exactly the same and try and get the ball to start over there. Or alternatively, you keep hooking it, keeps finishing over to the left-hand side, set up exactly the same, try and get the face to point to the right at impact. The point is, with a half-decent strike and the face pointing somewhere at the target relative to your swing path, well, we should at least be within 40 yards of the flag. What a perfect yardage to demonstrate my last nightmare as a young golfer. Bearing in mind the majority of par 4s on any golf course is around 350 yards. And yet I would stand there with a driver, not my rescue, 80% of the time, so that I could get it to within 50 yards of the flag. The only issue is my 50-yard approach play, as I demonstrated, was awful. I could smoke a driver, get it up there, and then still walk away with a 6. One of the reasons why I love a utility or I love a driving iron off the tee is the backspin. The more loft you have and have the ability to at least hit it 200 yards, the better. A nice smooth 190 yards in the air with the Cleveland 6-iron. So as a challenge for a lot of you big hitters, especially the ones that can hit their 5-iron 200 yards, see how many fairways you can hit with your 5-iron. See what your score is, especially as you've now got an idea for your approach play and you're definitely covered within 40 yards of the flag. A classic example of my last point, how to know you've outgrown your old cavity backs, because you're getting punished on the good shots. Now, when I started the game, I had R7 XD irons, mammoth clubs. I hit the 7-iron when I started, like 165, 170. I was delighted. However, as the year progressed, that 170 became 180, 185, and then out of the rough with a bit of a flyer, and then potentially with a bit of downwind, that 7-iron could then be 220. 230, meaning I've hit a great shot, exactly what I wanted to, club face, and it's just flown miles out the back. And because I'm used to hitting out the middle, I don't actually need the launch, I don't actually need the forgiveness. If anything, I actually need a bit more control. It just left a lot of guesswork. From 200 yards out, I'd have to hit a 7-iron, which means I'd thrash at it more, hoping it would get there, which means I'd hit a worse shot, meaning it doesn't get there, putting me in that 40-yard approach play spot, well, I'd probably just end up duffing the chip shot anyway. And if you're this player that pulls their shot left and it goes so far out the back, it's time to potentially go to a smaller iron head altogether, which is a good thing, meaning you find the middle more often than not, and you've actually neglected this so that you could get as good at golf as you could. But if you're now struggling to find a set of forged irons around £200 for your bag to test and try, well, I've got you covered in this video up here on the right hand side. Catch you guys later.